They think he is weak and have no magic skills, but he is actually the most powerful hero. Noor is a hardworking young man who has always wanted to be an adventurer. But due to him being a failure and his ungodly lack of talent, he was only ever able to learn one basic skill. The story starts in the northwestern region of the Clay Kingdom, and we see our hero Noor making some medicine for his sick mother. His mother drinks the medicine, and she thanks him for always taking care of her. Noor tells her that he will be going to feed the sheep now, and her mother asks him to promise that he won't go outside the barrier, and he does so. He said that he will bring back some fruits and rabbit meat to make soup, and his mother starts coughing, worried about her. He states that he will boil some water for her, but his mother stops him, and she wipes out the dirty face of her hardworking son. She sadly apologizes for not being able to give her much, and she mentions that he at least deserves to choose how he lives. The scene then cuts to Noor making some soup at night with the rabbit, meat, and fruits he gathered, and he takes it to his mother. After it's done, he tries to wake her up, but she doesn't respond to him, and he is devastated to find out that she is dead afterwards. He makes a grave for his mother next to his father's grave, and he cries in silence after this incident. And Noor starts to spend his time catching prey to eat, taking care of his cattle, arranging things in his house, and reading some books. Each day passes with him doing these things and nothing else. And he feels lonely when he is not doing any work. One day, he finds an old book in his house, and after reading it, he remembers that this is the book that his father used to read to him when he was a child. His father used to tell him about adventurers, and he was the one who introduced him to their heroic tales. He told Nora that adventurers can lift curses haunting a forest, study magic to become powerful magicians band together, to take down colossal monsters, and even secure an all-curing elixir from a spirit king, no matter the crisis they face. They would fight to protect the weak and their allies and vanquish evil. This got No interested in them, and he pestered his father for more stories about them back in the present. No remembers that his mother told him to decide how to live his life, and he thinks of becoming an adventurer the next day. He lays out large amounts of feed for his cattle, and he says his farewells to his mother and father. He tells them that he is going on his first trip to the city and become an adventurer. He then hesitantly leaves the barrier around his home, and after spending days traveling around all alone, he manages to reach the city. He enters the city, and he asks the guards at the gate for directions to the guild, and they point him in the right direction. Inside the city, he acts like a country bumpkin, seeing unknown sights for the first time, and everything excites him. He then goes to the Adventurers Guild, and the guildmaster tries to show him away, telling him that this is no place for kids, nor states that the gatekeeper told him to come here if he wants to become an adventurer, and the guildmaster mentioned that he shouldn't try doing something so dumb with his life, as his parents will be worried about him. Snow informs the guildmaster that both of his parents are already dead, and upon being asked for a name, he introduces himself. The guildmaster states that Noor should start by going to the class training school if he wants to be an adventurer, but he might have some problem fitting in as there has never been a candidate as young as him. Noor asks him what a training school is, and the guildmaster tells him that everyone who wants to join the Royal Capital's Adventurers Guild needs to pick a training school there. He will have to pick his adventurer class and train, and he should pick up some useful skills if he wants to be an adventurer being a country bumpkin. Noor is clueless about skills, and the guildmaster tells him that he is talking about sword, techniques, magic, and other stuff like that. This excites our dreamer, and the scene cuts to him at a swordsman training school. He thinks that he is going to become like the hero who could slay a dragon with the size of a mountain in a single strike. He trains swordsmanship in the school, and one by one, the other students start to awaken some sword skills, and Noor keeps training while enviously looking at them. Several months later, we see that everyone has managed to learn some sword skills, but Noor has not made much progress. He still keeps training, but his instructor tells him that he should stop. Noor wants to keep training more, but the instructor tells him that he would just be wasting his time as he is a talentless bum, and in all his time here he has only learned to parry. He states that Noor is better off walking another path, and he mentions that the other training schools might be able to bring out his potential. He then goes to the warrior school, and he thinks that being a warrior is also cool, as he can stand on the front lines and protect his allies. He goes through grueling training there, but he makes no progress there as well after several months. His instructor tells him to quit, as he has only managed to learn how to strengthen himself a bit with physical enhancement. After all his time here, he tells him that he will only get hurt if he keeps pushing himself on this road, and afterwards, Noor goes to the hunter training school. He fails there as well, and his instructor tells him that he is not cut out to handle delicate tools like bows. He then tries out at the magician training school, but after all his training, he only manages to cast a puny flame, which might even have trouble lighting a candle. He then goes to the thieves training school, and even after training there for a while, he can't get the hang of disarming traps, picking locks, and detecting presences, and he has to quit this as well. He tries out the cleric training school, but he has no luck there as well. After months of training, he only manages to learn the spell Low Heal, which can do nothing but treat scrapes. He then disappointingly returns to the guild, and the guild master is surprised to find out that he couldn't even learn a single thing. Even after months of training, the guild master tells him that he doesn't have what it takes to be an adventurer in this case, and the talentless loser leaves the city in disappointment. The scene cuts to him back at his house, and he tells his parents that he has no talent for adventuring, but he is not going to give up. He states that he will just have to try harder than anyone else, and he crafts himself a wooden sword. He thinks that his sword instructor told him that the one skill he has might turn into a completely different skill if he keeps honing it, and he trains his parry skill. He states that he is going to spend his days and nights perfecting this one skill, and he keeps on training a year then passes by, and we find out that Noor has trained his parry skills to deflect 10 swords at once. He still hasn't developed any new skills, but he thinks that he is moving forward 3 years then pass by. And now Noor has trained his parry skill to such a level that he can parry 100 swords at once. But he still hasn't developed a new skill. This isn't enough to make our stubborn protagonist give up, and he still keeps training day in and day out. He trains so hard that he even breaks his sword, and he heals his scratches with his low heal skill afterwards. 10 more years pass by, and now N can parry 1,000 swords at once. He thinks that he hasn't missed a single day of training for the last 14 years, but he hasn't learned a single new skill. The next day, Nord decides to go to the city once more, and the scene cuts to him at the Adventurers Guild. The staff at the guild checks out that he has the skills: parry, physical enhancement, stone, throw, feather step, tiny, lame, and low heal, and she wonders if he is sure that he wants to register with these lame-ass skills. She tells him about the training school system and how it can improve his skill set, but he mentions that he has already studied under all of them. This puts the girl on the spot, and she doesn't know what to say seeing this. No realizes that he won't be able to join the guild, and he wonders if there is really no way for him to join. The guild master then comes there, and he has a tough time recognizing the grown-up. No, but he does after taking a close look. Noor tells him what he has been doing all this time, and he can't believe that even after training for all this time, all Noor managed to learn is a slightly stronger version of parry. The guild master then explains to Noor that adventurers are ranked from S to A, going from the weakest to the strongest to register as an EL ranked adventurer. They need to have at least one useful skill, but Noor doesn't even have that. So Noor thinks that it's time for him to give up on his dream, if this is the case, but the guildmaster tells him that the situation has not turned completely hopeless. Yet he mentions that there is a legendary rank below E, and it is not known by many people. Noor is excited to find out that he can join the guild as an F-ranked adventurer, and the guildmaster tells him that there are some conditions. He states that Noor won't be able to take any hunting jobs or gathering jobs outside the city, and he will only be able to do odd jobs within the city's borders. He thinks that Noor might not be interested in this since it was made for beggars, so they can put food on the table. But Noor agrees to join the guild as an F-ranked adventurer. The guildmaster is surprised to hear this, but he registers Noor when he insists on it. Noor is excited to see his adventurer card, and he starts taking on odd jobs around the city. He completes them one by one with the help of his lame-ass skills, and he still keeps up his sword. Training days pass by with him, helping people through the city, and one day while sitting by a fire, he thinks that he has finally achieved his dream and become an adventurer who can help people. He knows that wishing for anything more than this would be impossible with his set of skills, and he continues to work odd jobs around the city. One day, he helps out an old woman clean her drains, and she appreciates him always helping her out with this. He then works at a construction site, and after he is finished with his work, he notices a light shining in a cave, and he hears someone crying out for help. He heads to the cave as fast as he can and notices a minotaur about to kill a girl. We see that the girl is being protected by some knights, and the knights try to fight the gigantic monster, but they are no match for it. The monster takes out the captain of the knights with a single hit, and he then kills the others as easily as one would squash a bug. This drowns the entire area in blood, and the girl is horrified to witness this. The minotaur then tries to kill the girl, but Noor diverts the monster's attention to himself using his rock throw skill. The miner then chases No, and it attacks him, but he manages to parry its attack. The minotaur keeps attacking him, and he parries all of its attacks. But with every move his sword takes damage, Noor thinks that he needs to find an opening, but he realizes that he won't be able to kill the minotaur even if he has an opening, as he doesn't have an offensive skill. He notices that the girl is still here, and the minotaur tries to attack her, but he uses feather step and parry to save her. This destroys his sword, and he thinks that even if he can't become an adventurer, he at least needs to protect the girl in front of him. He remembers his father's words on what it means to be an adventurer, and the minotaur attacks him again, but he parries its attack once more. This makes the minotaur's axe slip out of its hand, and it beheads the monster. Noor thinks that he would be dead if the fight kept on going any longer, and he once again realizes how talentless he is. The girl then thanks him for saving her life, and she asks for his name, But he states that he is not worth remembering and he leaves. Some knights then come to rescue the girl and we see Nor in town. He can't believe that he almost got killed by a random cow on the streets. He walks through the streets, thinking about how he almost got killed by a giant cow and realizes that he needs to train, even ointment if he gibber, to truly become an adventurer who can protect people. After Nor was gone, the dungeon gets filled with the white-haired woman's guards as she turns out to be Lynn Clay of a noble family. Her personal guard arrives and watches the dead Minotaur being inspected by the scientists, while Clay's guards lay dead on the ground covered by a white cloth. She immediately apologizes for not being here for her protection, but she tells him not to worry about it as it wasn't her fault. A little while later, another man named Dar enters and asks whether she is fine and details what happened here. The news about the attack reaches her brother Rai, who is completely shocked to find out that his sister was attacked by such a monster. He asks Dar whether he has any idea what a Minotaur was doing on the surface when it is supposed to stay in the innermost depths of the dungeons. Dar bows down and explains that this was definitely an assassination attempt as they found out that the ring Lynn recently bought from a merchant got tested by a magician, revealing that it had a mana stone of 90 purity, which is extremely hard to find. That was the reason why the Minotaur attacked her group. Rai still seems unclear as he doesn't understand why a Minotaur would want a mana stone, but Dar reveals that he believes the mana stone was cursed by the neighboring enemy kingdom of Derry, who is known for practicing dark magic. He agrees with this assumption as lately Derry's army has been harassing them on the outskirts, and now such a brazen attack on Lynn without even trying to hide it proves that they want a war. He then asks Dar about the man who saved Lynn's life, but Dar claims that they know nothing about the man apart from the fact that he killed the Minotaur with his broadsword in a matter of minutes, but escaped quickly afterward without even telling his name to Lynn. The next morning, Nor goes into the guild as if nothing happened when the fatty immediately walks up to him asking if he is fine. Nor seems confused, so the fatty explains that last night a deadly monster emerged in the caves near his construction site, and that's why he was worried. Officer has no idea that the fatty is talking about the Minotaur that he killed last night as he thought it must be a low-level cow monster since he managed to defeat it. The fatty tells Nor that he is lucky that he left beforehand, because even a former A-ranked adventurer like him couldn't have done anything against such a strong beast. Nor wipes the dirt from his face and wonders what kind of monster it could be that even an A-ranked adventurer is scared of it, and then thanks the gods that he only faced off against a giant cow. Nor asks what happened to the monster, and the fatty replies that some mystery man ended up killing the beast in a single blow, which really shocks Nor as he wonders how strong that man must be to kill such a monster, not realizing that he is the man the fatty is talking about. Later, the fatty gives him his pay for the day but tells him to get a real job as well. Otherwise, he won't be able to earn much. Before he could reply, though, a hooded figure appears behind him and calls him out. He turns around only to find the white-haired girl he saved yesterday, and asks how did she find him. She apologizes for following him but claims that she used her long-distance detection skill to find him. He asks whether she learned it from the thief schools, but she claims that she is from the magician branch but has equal skills in all the 6 branches. Lynn notices that she is drawing way too much attention and asks Nor whether they can talk somewhere more private. But before he could reply, the fatty grabs him and asks what the hell did he do. Nor replies that he didn't do anything wrong while Lynn deploys a soundproof barrier and asks him to come with her. They both exit the building and walk through the streets to a desolate area where she tells him that she really wanted to thank him, as not only did he save her life, but he also saved the lives of a lot of citizens. Nor still doesn't know how strong he is, so he claims that she is so talented and he must have ruined her plans by butting his head in between. She tells him that it's not true. In fact, if he didn't come to her aid, she would have probably died there. She then claims that she wants to reward him for his help, but Nor immediately replies that her gratitude is enough. Lynn, however, is not so easily pushed away and tells him that she is a person of status here, and even her father would like to thank him personally. He again refuses, which shocks Lynn, who has no idea why a man would refuse a reward from a noble. She asks whether there is anything troubling him and even claims that her father will give him a lot of land if he wants it, but Nor keeps rejecting her offers. He tells her that he doesn't need anything from her, which makes her tear up as she feels obligated to repay him for his help. She tells him that she won't move from this place until he accepts her gratitude, which reminds him of the time when he did the same to one of the instructors of the healing school branch. He finally gives in and agrees to meet with her father but refuses to take any over-the-top rewards. Sticks are happy enough, and she uses magic to conceal both herself and him as they walk through the city back to her mansion. When they finally reach her house, Nor is completely shocked as he has never seen such a big and lavish place. They walk by the guards and enter inside while Nor wonders whether this girl is a noble if she is so rich. On the way, they end up running into her personal guard, EI, who looks at him suspiciously and asks who he is. Lin tells her that this is the man who saved her life, and she immediately softens up, claiming that she will take them to the Lord. They follow Mi through the gallery when Nor spots a guy wearing yellow armor waiting by the window, and he immediately jumps into action, spinning his lance before pointing it towards Nor and asking who the hell he is. Mi tells him to back off as he is Lin's guest, but this Pikachu-looking ass hat ends up making fun of Nor for looking poor. Mi introduces him as Guile and asks him to accompany them into the room as she still doesn't fully trust. They wait outside the hall as Lin's father, Clay, talks to his son about the increasing chances of war. They remember the last time they met with the King of Derry, who ended up insulting them and threatening to wage war against them if they didn't give him access to all the dungeons in their kingdom. Soon, the door opens and they all enter the hall. Both In and Guile drop to one knee in front of their lord. But Nor has no clue who the man on the high seat is, so he simply walks ahead without a single care. Alongside Lin, she introduces him to her father, claiming that this is the man who saved her life. Immediately, the Lord gets up from his seat and moves towards Nor, thanking him for saving his daughter's life. Nor tells him that he is not a noble and has never talked to nobles before, so he doesn't know how to properly behave. But the Lord doesn't seem to mind. He laughs and shakes his hand before asking him to choose anything he wants as a reward. Nor immediately declines, claiming that he neither wants land nor gold. The Lord seems confused, but tells him that if he wants, he can have half the treasure of the oldest dungeons in the world that fall in their kingdom. Prey advises against it, as the treasure is worth more than a small country's GDP, but to their surprise, Nor refuses it as well, claiming that he doesn't want any kind of gift from them. The Lord looks confused as to what sort of men would refuse such a gift. He then walks over to his seat and takes out the giant black sword behind it, which used to be his personal weapon during his adventuring days. Ray seems a bit worried, but his father tells him that it's fine, as the sword should be used in battle and not kept as a decoration. He hands it over to Nor, who grabs the handle and immediately realizes that the weapon is heavier than anything he has ever used. Nor thinks that it is just a random second-hand sword, so he decides to accept it as a gift, wanting all of this to end quickly so he can go back to work. The Lord asks him to swing it at once, and to his surprise, Nor simply uses one hand to swing the sword so strongly that it creates a wind blast around them. Nor looks at the Lord and tells him that it's a bit heavy, but he will manage, which makes Clay laugh as he can't believe this man just swung a two-handed great sword with a single hand. Clay asks whether Nor would like to train Lin a little bit, as it is getting very dangerous nowadays, which puts a smile on the girl's face. But Nor immediately declines, claiming that there is nothing he could teach her, and decides to leave. On the way through their gallery, he looks at the sword once again and realizes that it is the same size as the drainage ditch, which means that he can use it to scoop out dirt from the ditch much more efficiently. Before he could leave, though, he gets stopped by Gil, who puts a lance to his face, telling Nor that he wants to see whether he is worthy of that sword, while Nor wonders whether he will ever be able to leave this mansion to get back to work. Gil leads him through a hallway. Nor wonders where he is being taken because he just wants to go back to work. To his surprise, Gil brings him to a training arena for a mock duel between them. This shocks Nor because he has not sparred hard with anyone since his days in training school. Gil picks up a wooden pole for practice and reveals that he is quite famous in the capital. He then asks Nor to choose his weapon as well. Nor thinks this is an excellent chance to learn from a veteran and chooses a regular wooden sword. He doesn't think he will be much of an opponent to Gil, but he still plans to give it his all. Gil attacks first, thrusting his staff at Nor, who easily dodges his attacks. He can see how effortless and efficient Gil's moves are, which reveals how much he has trained. But for some reason, he appears to be moving very slowly to Nor. He believes that Gil is just holding back his strength out of consideration for a novice like him. He calls a timeout and tells Gil that he doesn't need to hold back to such an extent, so Gil decides to get serious with him. He launches his attacks at a much higher intensity this time, but it is not fast enough to overwhelm Nor, who finds openings in Gil's defense every time he misses an attack. On the other hand, Gil is frustrated that his strikes are not connecting with Nor, so he decides to use a special move where he changes his trajectory at the last moment, forcing Nor to jump and then using it as a chance to strike him down. Just as he lands, however, despite all that, Nor is able to dodge the attack and asks Gil to increase the pace even more because he is comfortable with the current intensity. Gil was already using his full abilities, so hearing those words hurt his ego. Nor also finally realizes that he might actually be stronger than Gil, but then suddenly the elite guard uses his special move on Nor. The attack reaches dangerously close, but when the dust settles, Nor is not in front of Gil. He had dodged the attack and moved to the side, but after seeing the destructive power of Gil's attack, he immediately declares that he no longer wishes to fight. Nor leaves the palace with that, but his skill causes an uproar among other knights who can't believe that he could dodge their captain's special attack. Some of them believe that Nor only survived because Gil was holding a practice spear. Otherwise, a genius like him could easily defeat anyone he wants to. Hearing those words takes the depressed Guile down memory lane. He was always talented with a spear and traveled all around the kingdom, seeking powerful people and defeating them. There was no one who could even give him a proper challenge, and Gil got bored. He went to the capital and joined the knights so that he could fight monsters since they were stronger than humans. However, even monsters were no match for his strength and skill, and his boredom persisted. Then one day, as he was lazing around, the master of the sword school came to see him because he was the one who trained him in the early days. Gil ranted about how boring it is to be so strong and wished there were more people as strong as the master so that he could have fun fighting them. The master only told him that someday, someone who will surpass him will emerge among his students, and Guile hoped that the person makes his appearance while he is still alive, because that may be the only way to relieve his boredom now. As Guile thinks about the man who killed a minotaur with a single strike, his mind is full of conflicting thoughts. He knew from the first moment that Nor was an interesting person, but he couldn't sense anything remarkable about his strength. However, when they sparred, he found that Nor was much stronger than he looked. When Nor told him to go even faster, he used his special attack on him, which was even faster than the speed of sound, knowing full well that no human could survive it. When Nor dodged the attack, Gil felt defeated. To top that off, Nor ended the fight with that. Gil believes that he did so not to embarrass him in front of his troops. Before going, he told him that he was looking forward to their next meeting, which was Nor's way of telling him to get stronger. Now Gil thinks that he has finally found someone who can make his life a bit more fun. On the other hand, Nor has no idea how highly Gil rates him. He used his body strengthening and feather step skills earlier to evade his ultimate attack at the last moment, and if he was even a moment late, he would have died. He thinks Gil adjusted the speed of his attack on purpose so that he could only barely dodge it, and he is grateful to him for showing him that he still needs a lot of training. The next day, Nor begins cleaning drains using the treasured sword he received from the king, and he is absolutely stunned by how well the sword performs. Later, he is sitting in the forest because his job at the construction site was suspended because of the Minotaur incident. He wonders how he can kill time until the job is available again, and he also wants to put the huge sword to good use. He thinks that it may make a splendid shovel, a pizza shovel, or even a grill plate, but he lacks the resources to get other items needed to start those businesses. He tries using his fire magic and thinks that it is too weak to be any good for starting a barbecue. He hears footsteps behind him and turns around to find Lin there, who has come looking for him specifically. Nor asks how he can help her, and Lin requests him to let her be his apprentice so that she can learn from him while serving him. She is eager to serve him with anything he wants, but Nor refuses, saying that he cannot teach her anything and he is self-sufficient in it. Lin tries offering him a monetary reward for his training, but Nor clearly tells her that he wants nothing. She keeps insisting that she will be helpful to him, and Nor fails to clearly get his point across to her. To prove that she is qualified to learn from him, Lin decides to show off her magic power. She creates icicle lances and shoots them towards herself, then burns them off using a powerful fire spell. Next, she cuts down a huge tree with a small dagger using another skill, and then uses a magic sword skill to blast a tree behind Nor. She is confident that Nor will accept her as his apprentice with this display, but he still refuses to do so. He has now realized that Lin is rating him too highly and wonders how he can convince her that he is nothing compared to her. He decides to show her his skill and creates a tiny fireball to prove to her that he is a loser. Lin is shocked to see it. She begins walking home and thinks about the tale of the talentless boy that all the teachers used to narrate. At that time, Lin used to think of it as just a cautionary tale because she didn't think that any 12-year-old boy could endure the harsh training of all 6 schools for the full term, when even seasoned warriors found it hard to stay there for so long. Once the strongest magician who runs the magic school showed her his tiny fire skill and then increased its size to show off his mastery. The magician said that it takes decades of practice to increase the size of the tiny flame skill. That is why, when Nor showed Lin his tiny fire today, she was left speechless because it was much larger than the strongest magician in the world. He told her that this is all he can manage and his skill in other branches is at the same level as well. Only Lin knew that the size of the small fire spoke volumes about Nor's ability, and she concluded that he was a peerless master in the other branches as well. Now she is ashamed that she was proud of her high-level skills that she just learned recently. She thinks that despite being exponentially stronger than her, Nor never boasts about his power and does even the most mundane tasks to help others. She thinks that Nor's mind and character are as strong as his body, and that he cannot be fazed by anything. As the princess, she will have to lead the kingdom alongside her brother one day, and for that, she needs to be strong. She wants to learn how to become strong from Nor, and for that reason, she once again reaches out to him just as he is coming out from a restaurant after having dinner. Lin tells him that she fully understands how immature and vain she was, and now wants to learn from him even more. She believes that his strength will become the foundation of their kingdom's peace and prosperity, so she has accepted him as her master. However, Nor is deeply troubled by it and just wants to go home. Rain is thinking over his father's actions. He has no idea why their father would give Noah a newcomer with unknown lineage. Since Blackblade is a prime dungeon relic that their father obtained from his adventuring days after delving into the deepest part of the Dungeon of the Lost. They tried to determine what it was made of, but all they learned is that it is harder than any metal known to man. Countless craftsmen and blacksmiths tried to study it, but they couldn't even scratch on it. That is when was given the nickname Unbreakable Blade. However, the sword also looks like it's already bent and beaten up. So what could have done that to it? Rain gazes out at their kingdom and realizes that he should just trust his father. Their father must be counting on No to play a pivotal part in the future of their country. Meanwhile, Nor himself is at the marketplace with Lin. Nor is still apprehensive with a noble, like Lin being with him, but Lin insists that she's just acting as an adventurer right now. She also calls him an instructor. No, which worries No because he still doesn't feel like he should be a teacher, but no matter what he does, Lin keeps following him. Therefore, he just decided to go get jobs in the guild and show Lin how simple and dull his everyday life really is at the guild. The guild master is surprised and curious as to why Lin is still with No. However, before he can say anything else, Lin demands that she should be treated just like an adventurer. The guild master determines that he should just mind his own business while Nor asks him for a two-man quest, since Lin is a silver B rank adventurer. The guild master informs them that they can actually accept the goblin hunting job outside the capital. Nor immediately gets excited, because goblins are typical monsters that adventurers fight to test out their skills. This means that he can finally get real combat experience. Bros seem to have forgotten he fought a minotaur already. Nor smiles, since he might be able to go out of the capital and go on a real quest, just like a real adventurer. However, he also feels guilty, since the only reason they are qualified for the job is due to Lin's high rank. After all, he himself was just insisting earlier that Lin should go home. Lin is staring at No and waiting for his decision, but No misunderstood this as him judging her. Nor asks her if it's really okay if they form a party, and Lin happily replies that she's happy to help her instructor. Thus, Nor decides to just accept her offer. He still feels like he's using Lin, but he still wants his childhood dreams of becoming an adventurer to come true. Nor picks up his black blade and walks confidently out of the door, leaving both Lin and the guild master confused. The guild master calls out to him and points out that he still hasn't given them the details of the quest. A few minutes later, the guild master stamps his approval on their quest forms and warns Nor to be mindful of his limits. He then pulls out a map and points out the location where they can find the goblin. It is inside the forest of beasts, and they would have to bring back the goblin's right ear as proof that they successfully completed the quest. If they cannot find the goblin, they can just pick up some medicinal herbs, so their travel wouldn't go to waste. Thus, Nora's first adventure is now starting. He and Lin give their papers to the city guard, which opens up the gate for them a few hours of walking later, and they are already at the forest of beasts. Nor is struck, since the forest is so dense and all the trees are different from what he's used to pass the time productively. Nor asks Lin to explain what goblins are to him. Lin then explains how goblins are predators that hunt small animals and also eat fruits. However, they can also be aggressive and attack humans for food. If goblins are left unattended, they can multiply quickly until their supply of food runs out. If this happens, the goblins would just go outside the forest and start attacking human villages. This is the reason why the guild always has quests that involve hunting goblins to control their population. Of course, it's also dangerous to kill them all off, because they are not sure how it might affect the ecological system of the forest. After all, the forest is also the source of multiple rare animals, plants, and are also used as training grounds for adventurers. Nor is amazed at how much Lin seems to know about a random forest. He is also disappointed because it looks like he really doesn't have anything he can teach her. They go so deep into the forest that fog quickly envelops them, and yet they still cannot find a single goblin. Lin uses her tracking magic, but it also fails to locate any. They conclude that other adventurers must have reduced the goblin numbers successfully. However, Lin's magic did also manage to find another monster. Like being so, it's not like all is lost. It was deeper inside the forest, but since they still have nothing to show for their journey, they decide to delve deeper. The foliage is getting thicker and thicker as they venture farther into the trees. Lin is then surprised when the monster signal she was receiving abruptly disappeared. She updates Nor wonders if it was killed by a disease or old age when they finally reach the supposed location of the monster. There really is nothing there, however. Nor suddenly senses something from beyond the trees. They look up and see the lower half of a bloody monster floating in the air. Lin immediately jumps into action and fires off a revealing spell in front of them. Her magic hits something and the illusion breaks. What was just empty air earlier is now revealed to have a gigantic and muscular goblin standing before them. It has a red gem on its forehead and is more than double the height of No. They encounter a freaking goblin emperor, which is a catastrophe class threat, but No, being the epitome of Dumb and Dumber, assumes that this monstrous being is the Masly goblin that he has heard about his entire life. I mean, of course, he would get the wrong idea. The entire description of a goblin completely checks out. It has green skin, walks on two legs, and uses tools as their weapons. Can we really blame Nor here for being an idiot? Whatever the Goblin Emperor releases, a huge roar which generates a huge shockwave that almost sends both No and Lin flying away. Lin justifiably becomes terrified of this monster and completely immobilized by the very sight of this abomination. Nor assumes that the only reason Lin is so terrified, even though she is much more talented than he is because she is very inexperienced in real combat. So he encourages her, telling her not to be afraid, as it is just a goblin, the weakest of the weakest monsters that the real adventurers deal with every single day with No's motivation. Lin musters up enough courage in her to fight alongside her instructor. According to Lin, goblin emperors are artificially created through forbidden research, and these beings are so rotten to the core that they devour their own kind without the slightest hesitation. So seeing that, Nor is super confident against such a monster. Lin also gets the wrong idea and assumes that her great instructor chose this mission, predicting that the Goblin Emperor would come here and with Nor being by her side. Lin shows no fear anymore and steps back like a true hero to let her sensei handle things with the Goblin Emperor. The Goblin Emperor charges straight at No with a giant log, and No elegantly parries, its attack cutting his weapon into half. The monster continues to hammer his weapon against Nor with the goal of cornering him so that he cannot make any more moves, but Nor his way out of the monster attacks, opening up an opportunity for Lin to land a wind magic spell on the monsters. The monster skillfully dodges Lin's wind cutters, attacks, and starts moving towards her. Spins closing in the distance against a mage is the best option for a close combat fighter. Lin uses her ice magic next, but yet again fails to land a single hit. The monster closes in enough to launch his weapon straight towards Lin, but Nor intervenes just in time and parries the weapon away. The Goblin Emperor picks up more wooden logs, but Nor parries everything. Lin figures out that the crimson gem on the Goblin Emperor's forehead is its weakness. She quickly uses her ultimate attack, Wind Blast, to immobilize the monster for a moment when she notices that it can regenerate instantly. She figures out that the monster's gemstone is a magic stone that is allowing it to heal, and so she tells Nor to destroy it, as that is their only way to win-win. Nor comes up with a plan and instructs Lin to fire at his back with her Wind Blast attack. With this strategy, Nor outspeeds. The Goblin Emperor uses physical enhancement and feather step to evade the counterattacks and strikes straight at its forehead, causing the gemstone to fall out while the monster is cowering in pain. Lin collects the gemstone and brings it back to No. Nor tells Lin that she should be the one to finish the job, and being the humble guy he is, he requests her to subjugate the monster as painlessly as possible, but Lin is like whatever dude and proceeds to burn the freaking monster alive, using her signature Move Hell Flare with the Goblin Emperor burnt to crisp. The cremation part is also settled. Line prays for the goblin soul, while Nor lets out a sigh of relief, as his mission is finally over. He of course believes that his goblin hunt quest is complete, as he is completely unaware that he is yet to encounter an actual goblin. Because of all that misunderstanding, remember, kids eat your vegetables, otherwise you will also end up becoming as dumb as this loser here. But anyway, Nor also realizes that he cannot take such risky missions anymore, and becomes determined to train more as he needs to become stronger to fight goblins. The weakest of the weakest monsters. After dealing with the monsters remains, Nor and Lin return to the city. On the other side, Lin's brother, Prince Rain, learns about the appearance of this catastrophic monster in the dark forest, and that makes him wonder if there is someone behind the scenes orchestrating these ominous events. He reveals to have received the magic stone from Lin, and judging by the magic stone's purity, he figures out how massive the Goblin Emperor was in size. According to the reports that Rain's subordinates have gotten, the Goblin Emperor is 5 times larger than a Goblin King, which is not surprising, seeing how abnormally powerful this magic stone is. Rain can only think of one party behind this monster's appearance, and immediately accuses the Magic Empire Diraz of scheming this evil plan to lay waste to this kingdom. But what Rain cannot believe is the fact that Lin and No were able to defeat that monster all by themselves. Learning that the monster was hiding inside the forest using an advanced concealment spell, Rain assumes that the monster was hiding in that place for several days. Apparently, even the Shadow Company, the best mages of the kingdom, were unable to detect that concealment spell, and that makes Rain wonder how this monster even ended up there. If it was transported or summoned there, Their sensory network would have caught it failing to come up with any probable conclusion. Rain asks his subordinates for a detailed report about the similar incidents occurring in the forest, and then tells them to continue their investigation. Meanwhile, Nor informs the guildmaster about their battle, and hearing everything, the guildmaster becomes proud, as he had never expected that this talentless loser would achieve such a feat, nor being humble as ever, gives all the credit to Lin, giving the guildmaster the wrong idea that Nor was just standing there in the sidelines watching Lin fight the monster. Honestly, the amount of miscommunication in this series is crazy. The guildmaster learns from Lin that the goblin had a gemstone on its forehead, and so he assumes that it was a rare goblin, as there is no chance in hell that this loser and his weak little girlfriend fought some giant monster all by themselves. The guildmaster tells No that they will have to show him the proof that they have subjugated the goblin. Otherwise, he won't be able to give them the payment for the guild commission, but Miss Genius here burned the entire thing, so they end up getting nothing on their first day as an adventurer duo. Lord Rain, Lin's brother and heir to the throne, studies the new reports brought to him by his spies. His brow furrows in frustration over the strange events occurring in their land. The reports include strange noises at night, missing pets, a missing grandfather, forest suddenly falling silent, and livestock cowering in fear. Rain has no idea what's happening in their territory. He then remembers the recent incident with Lin in the Forest of Beasts and realizes that invisible enemies must have infiltrated their land. He quickly orders his men to dispatch some guards skilled in uncovering and detecting concealment. He also sends out a call for the 6 sovereigns for an emergency meeting. His men quickly rush out to fulfill his ordinance, leaving Rain in the room angry at himself for not noticing earlier the signs of invasion. His anger at the Magic Empire grows, and he wonders why would the Magic Empire want the Dungeon of the Lost so much that they are willing to raze other countries to the ground. Meanwhile, in the city markets, Lin is happily sharing a meal with No, despite how they accidentally burned the goblin's ear from their last hunt. The guildmaster still took pity on them and gave them their reward. Their food ultimately tastes better, since they know that it came from their own hard work. Nor stares at Lin, and he wonders how long she's planning to follow him around. Why can't Nor just enjoy eating dinner with a beautiful girl by his side? Thankfully, his silent question seems to have been answered, as Lin turns toward No and informs him that it's time for her to go back home for the night. She was about to leave when Lord Rain suddenly appeared. Rain greets No and apologizes for interrupting their meal. However, he was hoping to give No a quest. Rain asks Nor if he and Lin can visit a town in the mountains tomorrow morning. He even offers to provide the arrangements for their carriage and guards. Rain says that he cannot explain everything fully, but they do need No's help. After his meeting with Nor, Rain submitted a formal quest to the guild. Therefore, when morning came the next day, Nor found himself in a carriage traveling through the countryside. It was actually an easy job, and Nor can just relax in the carriage. But in reality, the real reason he accepted the job is that Nor wanted to try riding a carriage even once in his life. Dude is really just here for the sweet ride. They pass through small towns, meadows, and farms. All the while, Nor happily gazes out of the window and absorbs the pretty scenery. He had never left the capital before, so he is taking this chance to see everything. Nor then notices that Lin looks sad in front of him, so he tries to spark up a conversation. Lin apologizes to No for getting him entangled in all of their family problems, but Nor assures her that it's okay. After all, he is getting paid for this job. Yesterday, Rain explained to them that their destination is northwest of the capital in the mountain city of Taros. All they have to do is wait there for a while, and if nothing interesting happens, they should explore the mountains until they reach the next country. The holy theocracy of Mithra, Nor was confused why they needed him to just tag along, and he didn't notice how serious and solemn Rain's attitude is. Lin hopes that nothing really happens during their trip, so Anais chimes in that she is also there to make sure of it secretly. She has another mission from Rain. Rain had explained to her that the capital is about to face a disaster, so he ordered an Ease to escort Lin to Totoros. If their kingdom falls in, would have to guide Lin and flee their kingdom into their neighbor, the holy kingdom of Mithra, who will take them in. They didn't tell Lin the truth, because if she knew, she would definitely insist on staying behind and also doesn't want to leave. But she is the only one Rain can trust to take care of Lin. After a few hours of traveling, the group takes a momentary rest by the side of a river, while Lin is busily petting the horses. Anais apologizes to Nor for dragging him into their troubles. She promises that she will also protect him too. Nor smiles and reassures her that he can take care of himself if worst comes to worst. He can just run away in hopes that this won't be necessary, since she has her shield with her. This confuses Nor, since he doesn't see a shield anywhere, so Anais decides to demonstrate it for him. Anais puts out her hand and summons her divine shield, a light green barrier of energy. Nor is amazed and starts poking at it. while Anise expounds how the shield can block most weapons or spells. Nor gazes at Anise and recalls that she is supposed to be as strong as Gilbert, since rumors say Gilbert can defeat a dragon then, and probably can too. Nor thinks that, unlike him, who struggled with a single goblin, their strengths are otherworldly. Really, Nor, I think you need to take a reality pill. Nor compliments in ease for being talented, but this just makes and remember her childhood. She was growing up in an orphanage when she first discovered her mysterious power. She was able to summon energy in her hand. A friend of hers curiously pokes at the energy, but her finger immediately bleeds and she screams in pain. Anise was traumatized, and a few hours later, adults called the Six Sovereigns had summoned her to their office. A kind priest reassures her that he already healed her friend and asks Inez to show her power again. The mage observes her power and remarks that it's a very rare gift and would be able to shape the energy into a blade that cuts anything or even a shield that defends against anything. In summary, her gift could easily topple nations. A mighty warrior then speaks up and promises to help her train her gift. The holy knight Dan taught Anise how to defend using her gadi and trained her enough at her young age that she became able to defend against a falling rock herself. Although and then had total control over her powers, she still was worried of the possibility that she might accidentally hurt someone. So she began distancing herself from her friends and the people around her, and soon enough she became a lone knight. Fast forward to when Inez met. So at the castle, she first heard of his name when she was at the forest with her master and foster father Dandel in the process of subjugating a monster. In a moment of hesitation, Inez dropped her guard and almost got herself killed, but Dandu saved her life by intervening just in time. Apparently Du had the weird habit of always mentioning this unfamiliar name called Nor, and back then, when they suddenly received a report that a large horde of monsters were approaching them, Du stated that things would have been a lot easier for them if No was with them. That, of course, confused in because she had never heard of No, but Dang never cared to explain, and only told Anise to not pay attention to what he said. Anise didn't understand why her father wanted Nora to be there, even though he had a gifted daughter. Like herself, she became envious of the man. She didn't even know and knew that that very man was sitting right beside her. Her jealousy had reached its peak. That explains why all this time Anise has been rude towards No. Inez knows herself that her childish behavior is not suited for a knight whose sole duty is to shield the house clays. So she redirects her focus towards only keeping Lady Lynn safe. On the other hand, Nor carefreely appreciates the beauty of nature from the carriage, when suddenly he notices that, in the distance, there is a strange trail inside the wheat fields. Inez notices the sudden change of expression of No. So she asks him if anything's wrong, and in response, Nor tells her what he just noticed. Lynn also looks outside and sees that, strangely, some ominous aura is trampling the wheat fields and sucking the life out of the crops. So she tells Inez to stop their carriage and steps out immediately to deal with a hidden monster as she uses her uncover spell on the surrounding area as a gigantic toad monster with wings reveals itself. Meanwhile, on the other side, King Clay learns from Rain that the attack on their kingdom has begun. Multiple monsters have started invading the royal capital from all sides, but the king's forces are struggling to deal with them as they are lacking in numbers. Rain orders his subordinate to deploy the Swordsman Corps so that they can help evacuate the citizens. He also tells him to deploy the Shadow Company and the Hunter Corps so that they can help the knights eliminate the invaders. King Clay doesn't understand why the Duras Empire would go to such lengths just for the treasures of the Lost Dungeon. He asks Rain about the situation and learns that the Six Sovereigns are also helping the knights, but still he doesn't think that would be enough. The scene shifts and we see 3 goblin emperors toying with the knights, trampling on them like they are nothing but ants, and arrives there with the goal to assist the remaining soldiers and commands them to protect the area with their lives. We get a glimpse of what the other members of the Six Sovereigns are doing as well. The swordsman has said dozens of monsters all by himself in his governing area. The archer is commanding the archery squad to attack the enemy from the distance. The wizard is burning the monsters alive. The healer is healing the wounds of the injured soldiers. And lastly, the assassin is taking down the monsters from the shadows. Coming back to No's side, a young boy reveals to be escorting the toad monster, and when Lynn breaks the barrier with her uncovered skill, the monster goes out of control and attacks. Just a boy first, Nor being the embodiment of empathy, goes to save the kill and parry. The monster, in the meantime, Lynn realizes that the boy that No is trying to protect is of a demi-demon, since he was able to control that monster. According to what Lynn has learned from her brother Rain, the demon folk almost went to extinction 200 years ago because of their monstrosity towards humankind. But some of them managed to hide themselves and are still plotting to take their revenge on the humans. So it is crystal clear that this boy here brought the toad dragon to destroy mankind and doesn't think that No should help a demon, and calls No a foolish person for not thinking straight in any case. Ennis thinks that Nor won't survive against this monster, but Nor here claims to be doing just fine and starts to wonder why this toad is so weak. The toad launches a magical attack on No, But instead of dodging it, Nor parries it to protect the boy behind him. This turns out to be a big mistake, as the attack spills toxins that poison Nor. The air around him also becomes intoxicated, forcing him to surrender. Lin steps ahead to help her master, but Anise stops her as she doesn't want Lin to get hurt too, leaving No all alone to die. Just now that the monster has dealt with No, it attacks Inise and Lin with the same poison ball and uses her divine shield to protect both of them, telling Lin to forget about Nor and focus on surviving as she. The princess of this kingdom is more important than he is. Mr. Good Bro doesn't need the help of this selfish batch and in the dying state that he is. He parries the monster all alone, showing Inise that, unlike her, he is the true shield who is ready to do anything to protect the people around him unconditionally. But his body can only take so much, and he falls to the ground, starts coughing up intoxicated blood. Nor wonders if this is going to be the end of him. Then the silver-haired boy then remembers the past, and we see him being locked up in a prison cell with others of his kind. He explains that they are called cursed children because of their cursed ability to control monsters. Someone then feeds them stale bread, treating them like livestock. He elaborates that, for a long time, their race used their abilities to control livestock, but then someone started using it on monsters, which started a war that killed many people. Our entire species has been hated ever since. Oh, the boy remembers that when he once stared at the person who brought food to them, he was beaten badly because the man didn't like him staring. He states that being beaten was an everyday thing for him and the others. When he tried to ask the reason behind the violence, he was beaten beyond recognition, given no food and only water for 3 days. He then explains that because of his powers, he can also hear the thoughts of people. The townspeople treated him with disdain whenever he was brought out to be put on display so they could vent their anger over losing loved ones on him. When they found out about his powers, they became even more violent, realizing they didn't need to hold back since he knew what they were thinking. The kid states that despite all the terrible things done to him, he never thought about taking revenge. It was painful for him to be beaten and scorned, but he never imagined doing the same to them. He was adamant about not wanting to see blood again, but the man from earlier gave him some monsters and asked him to take them to another country. The man told him that by doing this, he would help his race and an entire country, and if he did as he was told, he would never be beaten for no reason again. He and his friends would also be fed good food every day. But if he refused, things would remain the same, and the man would ensure they got even worse. The boy couldn't read the man's mind because of the magic item on his head, but he knew the man had been true to his word so far, so he decided to believe him and headed to the Clay's kingdom. On his way, he thought he would have to kill the people there. Right then, his concealment spell was broken, the monster broke free from his control, and it attacked him. The boy was worried about failing his mission. While lying on the ground, he wondered what he was supposed to do now, fearing that even his friends would suffer because of him. As the monster headed toward him, he realized he was going to die and regretted not being of use to anyone in his life. He was at least glad that no one would be able to hurt him after he was dead, and he hoped that in his next life, he wouldn't be beaten and could be of use to someone. He wished he could eat tasty food and surrendered to his fate. But Nor saved him, fighting the monster to protect him. The boy couldn't understand why Nor was doing all this. When Nor was attacked by the poisonous breath, he used low heal on himself and also healed the boy, who was slightly poisoned. The boy was surprised to see this. The dragon used more of its poisonous breath, but the boy was surprisingly all right because of the layer of low heal cast on him. Nor continued fighting the dragon, and the dragon finally managed to put him down after a desperate battle. Nor then noticed that the poison in his body was subsiding, and he thought he was going to manage somehow. He then recalled that after the death of his parents and his return from the training schools, he went to the mountains to pick up things he could eat. He gathered a lot of plants and vegetables and cooked a soup by mixing almost all of them. He ate the food, and it was really delicious. He thought that he would only get a stomach ache if he ate something bad, so he didn't care to look at the ingredients he picked. But he ended up eating a deadly poison. He started bleeding all over the place, and his body didn't even have enough power to get up. He used his low heal spell on himself, and the spell worked a bit. The next morning, he was barely able to walk. After washing off the blood, he checked the books to find out what he ate. He found out it was a plant called Dragon's Ruin, and he recalled that his mother told him to never eat it. Despite being unable to walk straight, he still stubbornly continued to train, but his body didn't listen to him. He collapsed while training and used low heal on himself once more. The next time he woke up, he found that the pain in his stomach was gone, and he was hungry. He then went into the forest once more, making sure not to pick up the Dragon's Ruin this time, but an extremely poisonous snake bit him. He killed the snake, but the poison knocked him out. However, he woke up after a while and was surprised to see himself all right. After this, he then went home, cooked the snake with the intention of eating it, and thought it might not affect him since he was all right even after being poisoned by it. He then ate the snake and found it delicious. The next day, he intentionally let a similar snake bite him and noticed that the poison was progressing slower than the last time. He realized he was becoming immune to the poison and thought he might learn a new skill because of this. From then on, he continued searching for and eating poisonous plants and animals. He also collapsed sometimes, but he never learned a new skill. He would even cough up blood at times, but he ate without any worry and found out that all poisonous plants and animals were tasty. The story then returns to the present, and we see that Nor's body has already neutralized the dragon's poison. Nor thinks that this toad might be tasty as well. The toad attacks him, but he dodges. He thinks he should be fine now that he can detoxify the poison of this monster, and he hopes the boy is fine. The monster then attacks him again, but he parries all of the monster's attacks. The boy is surprised to see Nor fight such a terrifying creature on his own. The monster then gets desperate and puts all of its power into charging its most powerful poison breath yet. Nor realizes that the toad is betting it all on this one attack. However, he shuts the toad's mouth before it can release the poison, causing the poison breath to blast inside the toad, taking it out. Afterwards, Nor is grossed out by the mess he made and is surprised that toads outside the city are so dangerous. He thinks that this thing might be tasty and asks the boy if he is okay. He notices that the boy looks a bit pale and decides to have Lin take a look at him later. Nor then asks the boy if he came all this way alone, but the boy hesitantly mentions that he brought the monster with him and promised to take it to the city. Hearing this, the country bumpkin wonders if the boy was transporting the toad as an ingredient. He thinks that the boy must have kept it alive to keep its meat fresh and probably used concealment to keep it safe from meat thieves. Nor realizes that a big city might have a recipe to cook something poisonous like this, and that they might even have been raising the toad with great care. The dumb idiot thinks that he just destroyed some valuable merchandise and apologizes for messing up the boy's delivery. The boy is confused by this and mentions that there is no need for compensation. Nor is glad to hear this and wonders how the boy managed to get the toad all the way there. The boy explains that he can control monsters, and Nor is amazed to find out that he has such a useful skill. The boy tells him that he was born with this ability, which amazes Nor even more. Nor thinks that it must be a God-given power, and the boy hesitantly tells him that he is a demon folk. But he mentions that their entire race has this power, but Nor has never heard of them. Nor wishes that he had powers like theirs, thinking that he would be able to have birds deliver letters for him and have animals help him with field work. But he can think of endless uses for this power. The boy wonders if Nor is not afraid of him, but Nor has no reason to either be afraid of him or hate him. The boy tells Nor that his power scares a lot of people. Nor acknowledges that there might be people like that, but tells the boy not to let it get to him. He reassures the boy that his ability is useful no matter what others say about it. The boy is surprised to hear this, and Nor tells him that he can take his ability if the boy doesn't want it. The boy cries upon hearing all this, unable to believe that he can be needed by people. Nor wonders why this boy thinks so little of himself, especially since he is blessed, unlike Nor. He suspects it might be because of the boy's circumstances, but is sure that he will eventually be all right. Lin and Ines then arrive and ask Nor if he is all right. Nor mentions that he is fine, and we see that his bleeding has also stopped. He tells them that he is resistant to poison. Lin is surprised to hear this and thinks that this wasn't just any poison, it was the ultimate poison, capable of corroding the earth itself. She can't believe that someone can be fine even after coming into contact with it. She concludes that the only possibility is the sacred spirit. She explains that the sacred spirit is the result of honing one's body and mind with a saintly degree of dedication, allowing them to purify anything they touch and instantly heal any kind of wound. This is the pinnacle reached after extraordinary levels of training, and she notes that even the sovereign of the cleric temple spent 40 years achieving this. She is surprised that Nor has achieved this at such a young age. Nor then asks her if she can check if something is wrong with the boy. The boy insists that he is fine, and Lin notices that he really is a demon folk. Nor is surprised that she knows this, and Lin asks him what he intends to do with the boy. Nor hopes to let the boy ride with them, but Ines is unsure about this. Lin thinks that most countries would advise killing a demon folk on sight, and asks Nor if he is sure about this. Nor is sure, but thinks that the destruction of the wheat field is a shame. However, they owe the boy this much since they messed up his toad delivery to the city. Lin and Ines are surprised to find out that he was about to take that monster into the city, and Lin thinks that he is too dangerous, even if he is a child. Nor asks the boy who gave him this job, and the boy mentions that he wasn't told anything about his employer. Ines informs him that it won't be good to keep secrets, but from the way the boy is acting, she figures out that he really doesn't know anything. The boy states that this is how they were raised, and Ines realizes that he is a slave. She explains that slavery is banned in their kingdom, but this is not true for some other countries, and this boy was probably exploited as a child soldier. She asks the boy if he has a place to return to, but he reveals that he doesn't, and that he was blindfolded when he was taken there, so he doesn't even know where he came from. Hearing this, Nor wonders if it's possible to take him to the nearest city. Lin reflects on her earlier narrow-mindedness and remembers that her better father told her not to let heresy mislead her and to put faith in what lies before her eyes. She realizes she was about to make a mistake and thinks that nothing about this boy represents a race of evildoers. He is just a scared little kid. Noor then asks the boy his name, and he introduces himself as Rollo. Noor is glad that Rollo has such a short name, as he is not good at remembering long ones. Lin then also asks Ines if they can take the boy with them. Ines understands how she feels, but is still hesitant to allow this. She explains that demon folk are not allowed in the holy theocracy of Matra, and it would be difficult for them to take him with them. If they leave him in a city midway, he might not survive. Lin knows this is true, but before they can decide what to do with him, a man with the looks of an assassin shows up. There is a man standing there, and he is shocked because he thought Rue had already died. Also, the man sees that Rollo failed to deliver the frog, and since Rollo seems to know about it, he asks the man if he was the one who told Rollo to do it, and the man replies that it wasn't him. The mission's progress was helped by hiring someone to kill Rollo. He asked Nord if he killed the frog, and Nord said yes. He then said sorry, since he still thinks the frog was meant to be eaten. The man lets him know that he doesn't care about the frog, though. This man was hired to get Rollo, and Normal takes it to mean that the man is here to pick up Rollo, which is true. But the man's intentions are not at all good. The man then disappears and reappears behind the group, launching his attack. The group member is confused as to why the man attacked out of the blue, and the man knows that the group member will be tough to beat. With a calm voice, he asks, "No, would you be willing to hand the boy over to me without a fight?" It seems that Rollo is worth a lot of money, but only as a body, so Noor isn't going to just let him kill Rollo. The man strikes again, and Noor is still not sure why the man would want to kill Rollo. The man says that even if he brought Rollo back alive, his client would still kill him. That being said, why go through all that? Although Noor still doesn't understand what's going on, he seems to believe that by quickly killing Rollo, he is doing him a favor. The man stops trying to explain what's going on and tries to hit Rollo by jumping over No. But No is able to keep up with him and knocks the assassin back, breaking his dagger in the process. So fast are both Noor and the assassin. She tries to stay close to Lin to protect her in case they get caught in the crossfire because Lin can't keep up with them. The assassin is getting really mad at how tough Noor is, so he pulls out some more daggers and tries to hit him several times, but Noor is able to block all of them and pushes him back. Now that he sees No as a real threat to his mission, he is going to start trying very hard to kill him. He runs at an insanely high speed and tries to stab No in the face, but No again parries the attack, which sends him flying backwards once No gets his balance. He says that it's amazing that someone can hit with such a small knife and make that much force. He surprised the assassin and couldn't block Assyria's attack. He also broke one of the assassin's daggers, which made the assassin think he was very interesting. He takes out another dagger and rushes in to try to break No, but No is still standing strong despite his best efforts. Unfortunately, Noor isn't going to be able to protect Rollo for much longer at this rate, as he can't keep up with the assassin's attacks with just instinct. I had to put up a shield around Lin so she wouldn't get caught in the chaos of their fight. It took her a while to figure out who the assassin was, but his clothes match those of the former S-rank adventurer. The deadman Zadu walked into a meeting with all the sovereigns a while ago because she was interested in some old papers. It was about a target who was found to be officially dead, but she doesn't remember seeing anyone deal with this person. They tell her that going after the target would be too hard, so it's best to leave that mission alone and just declare the target dead. The person they were after was Zadu, who became an S-rank adventurer when he was young. But what he did made him a wanted person. These people didn't want to risk going after him because he was too strong, so they left him alone. Gilbert wanted to know more about Zadu as long as he wasn't making trouble in the kingdom. The other sovereigns are afraid to fight him, so Gilbert was interested in learning more about him. So the wizard starts to tell Zadu's story as a child. Zadu knew how to use dwarven alchemy well, and by the time he was 13, he had already killed his first dragon. After that, people all over the land heard about his skills, and he was seen as the greatest hero of all time. However, Zadu never had an Uncle Ben, so he started abusing his powers without thinking about the consequences. As an example, he killed 36 members of a merchant family, which is pretty unusual for an adventurer to do. The idea was to take away Zadu's license to be an adventurer. They didn't want to make an enemy out of him because, on the one hand, he did kill a lot of people, and on the other, he could whole-shot a dragon. Finally, Zad's punishment was put off, and he didn't have to deal with any consequences. Someone like Zadu is willing to take any job, no matter how bad or evil it is. For him, only the money matters, and he actually destroyed a whole country at the request of a client. He killed every soldier in the army and then killed the whole royal family. In order to keep more people from dying, the guild decided to act like he was already dead so that no one would attack him again with Zadu. He got hurt and lost another dagger in the fight against No. No says sorry for breaking all of Zad's daggers, but he says Zadu is partly to blame for attacking out of the blue like this. Zadu says it's okay since he wasn't looking for an apology, but he still finds it strange that his daggers keep breaking since they are all made of orshulkum and dragon tusk, which should make them almost impossible to break. He also has a lot of questions about the sword because it is different from anything he has seen before. Since he wants to be safe today, he plays his trump card and throws his ultimate weapon into the air at the same time. In a flash of red light, it starts to glow red. It is now possible to use unlimited blade works. Now there are thousands of blades all pointing straight at Nor, and Zadu can always make more, so it doesn't matter how many Nor destroys. There are just too many crosses for Nor to parry, so he has to let himself get stabbed to protect Rollo. When she realizes that there are too many crosses being thrown at her, she wants to go help. Her job is to make sure Lin gets to safety, so she shouldn't leave Lin's side for any reason. But after giving it some more thought, she decides to go help Nor after all. As Nor continues to struggle against the bear of many crosses, he realizes he won't be able to defend himself against the attack, so he gets ready to be stabbed. Suddenly, though, she steps in and stops the crosses with her shield, which surprised him. She is supposed to protect Lin, but she knows Nor is much stronger than she is and that having him around would make Lin's chances of surviving any threats they face much better, so she won't let him die here. She attacks Zadu with some of her shields, and Nor is impressed. It keeps him busy, but it doesn't look like any of her. Attacks will always touch. She asks Nor if he can help her out a little because Zadu's crosses are getting away from In's attacks. For now, she can handle their defense, but she is too slow to beat Zadu, which is why she needs Nor to do it. His confidence in his ability to control blades moving this quickly is low, but he has hit birds moving faster than this, so he might be able to do it. A broken claw from the frog is picked up by him, and he tells it that he has an idea. He wants her to drop the shield she put in front of him when he gives her the signal. By giving the signal, Nor activates his physical enhancement and stone throw abilities, which basically turn his arm into an anti-aircraft missile launcher, and drops some of the shields to make room for Nor to attack with a couple of dragon scales in his hands. As the claw pieces destroy all of Zed's crosses that were aimed at them, Mo still has a lot of bullets left, so he asks In to drop the shield again, which he does, killing even more of Zed's crosses. It looks like they are, making steady progress against him. While she wasn't looking, Zadu sneaked up behind her and almost stabbed her in the eye, but Nor dodged the attack just in time, breaking another one of Zed's daggers. Even though that attack looked like it was very close, it wasn't hard to block. Mor apologizes again for breaking such a valuable dagger. Zatu can't believe that Mor can respond to his attack so quickly and that he was able to break an adamantite dagger. Zad still attacked, though. For starters, Zadu says he doesn't need to say sorry, but he does need to pay back all the money he lost on the broken daggers. When he tries to attack again, she blocks and breaks it. Someone else with a dagger asks him how he keeps avoiding all of his attacks, but he can't really explain it. He seems to know what to do. No's power must have a secret, but Zadu will have to wait until another time to find out. For now, since the blades were destroyed, Zadu will have to work hard to get the Mithro he needs to replace them all, and he doesn't want to lose anymore. He is no longer going to get the reward for Rollo. Along with that, he was going to go to the kingdom because he had heard something interesting was going on there. But he changed his mind. Zadu doesn't know what he means when he says something interesting at the kingdom. He truly believes that it will be very expensive. To Rollo, he calls, "You're lucky." Because Nor is always one step ahead of him, no matter what kind of attack he tries, Nor is here. Despite this, he tries one more sneak attack, but as expected, it is easily blocked. Zadu can't finish his mission while Nor is nearby, so he takes a step back, then uses his magic to teleport away. Nor lets out a sigh of relief. There is no longer any Zadu, but Lin is worried about the event that seems to be happening in the capital. She asks her if she wants to go back there to see what's going on. But the royal capital Rollo starts to shake with fear as soon as he says it. Even though he was supposed to be transporting the Black Death Dragon, he could hear his captors talking about sending a scary monster to the capital. This monster would be so small it would make the Black Death Dragon look like a frog. Lin says that they need to get back to the capital right away because things are worse than she thought they were. That's fine with Nor, so she asks him to go back to the capital with her. But En tells them they can't. She was about to tell Lin about the order she got from Rain, but Lin already knows. After talking to Rain, she decided to leave with Lin in case something bad happened in the capital. Even though Lin didn't hear it from him, she knows that Rain feels that way. While she knows exactly what he wants, she can't agree to the plan that only she will be able to escape. She can't let that happen because the kingdom would still be in danger while she was gone. The demon folk went through the same thing when their home world was destroyed. Therefore, Lin will definitely end up in the same situation if it doesn't do something soon. Issa agrees to go back in the end, but she wants Lin to promise that she will stay with her. Noel pats Rollo on the head for being so responsible, and Lin notices. Rollo says he will go because he feels partly responsible for what happened and wants to help solve it. Because of the serious look on No's face, she thinks he is thinking deeply about himself, but he is really just sad that he never got to try the poison frog back at the capital. Although the city is in ruins, the 6 sovereigns have worked hard to keep their hold on it. Rain is in trouble now because she doesn't know where the next attack will come from. People haven't seen any flying creatures in the area, so it could be coming from the north, the south, or even above. Reports may say that, but Rain sees something in the sky, so he casts an uncover spell which scares him. It's not just any dragon that looms over the city the man finds. It is the Dragon of Calamity, which is the name of the dragon. The heroic character from Nora's book was given the name Slayer after he killed a bad dragon that was causing trouble in the lands. This didn't impress Nor so much that he said he wanted to kill a dragon too, but his father told him that it would be hard to do. Since some dragons are very strong and have lived for thousands of years, it only takes one to turn mountains into rubble or wipe out an entire continent. Fast forward to the present, and everyone is on their way back to the capital when someone notices something is wrong. He tells everyone that he has a feeling that there is a monster nearby. The other people don't see anything, but they are sure they feel something and can even point it out. The Dragon of Calamity then appeared and loomed over the city for a moment. People started to freak out, and Rain couldn't believe the Empire would do something so stupid just because they didn't get to steal the dungeons. It is said that the Dragon of Calamity went to sleep 150 years ago. This means that it will likely stay asleep for at least a few more 100 years. However, the Empire woke it up and set it on a course that would destroy the kingdom. Everyone who came to the capital to take shelter was told to leave right away because of the rain. But from the rooftops, the BA Sovereign can tell that magic is being used to block off the escape routes. This was done to keep all of the sovereigns busy. To fight the dragon, they can't work together. As certain doom comes closer, the king looks out the window. Gilbert tries to get him to leave too, but the king tells him to go help evacuate the citizens and make sure they are safe because he has his own duty to do. James watches as the dragon flies over the city, knowing that it will definitely destroy the capital. He can't leave it yet. In order to get the people out safely, they must have already started to evacuate. Lynn knows for sure that her dad would never leave, though. It's likely that he would put himself between the dragon and his people, but that dragon is so strong that not even the king can beat it. Lynn is devastated because she thinks the kingdom and her family will be destroyed. Nor is just amazed because he has never seen a dragon before. Yet neither still believes it was a dragon but a farm frog. His question is whether Lynn's father and brother are still in the capital. Lynn is sure that they will decide to stay behind and make sure that everyone gets to safety. Their help is now useless because they are too far away from the kingdom. Nor does not think the distance is a big deal because he is sure he can make it if he runs. But Lynn is shocked to hear that, and she doesn't think he'll make it because the kingdom is still about 100 km away and will be destroyed in a few minutes. They can employ the same method, according to him, against the goblins in the forest. Lynn should hit him with the strongest wind blast she can make, and he will finish it. Because he owes the people of that city a lot, he wants to help the rain and the king escape if he can. If Nor says he can make it, Lynn decides to trust him and not think twice. During his meeting with the Emperor threatened to destroy the kingdom if he didn't get what he wanted. The king refused to give up the Dungeon of the Lost and told the Emperor that he would never give up what he wanted. According to the Emperor, the king is wasting a very valuable resource. If the king fully used the power within it, he could easily take over the world. But the king thinks it's best not to mess with powers. The Emperor clearly took a different stance, since the dragon can't be controlled. However, it looks like the Emperor doesn't care what happens as long as he gets that dungeon. The king didn't realize how cruel the Emperor could be in the end. That is why, if he could change things, he might have given him the dungeon in the first place. He feels bad for the people of the kingdom who were doomed because they followed him, but what's done is done, and all he can think of is Lynn making it to safety in the end. He doesn't think he's fit to be king of a nation like this. He's more at home on the battlefield. He says sorry to them, and even though it might not be enough to make up for his mistakes, he's going to kill that dragon before he dies. Lynn's divine shield is used to make a cylinder to focus Nor's wind blast. She then asks Nor to stand in front of it, and Lynn gets ready and casts all of her magic barriers. It was her idea to make the cylinder so that no energy is wasted, but he's beginning to doubt himself because this thing looks so dangerous. Once Lynn is done casting all the barriers, she tells him that she's about to fire the wind blast, but this time it will be much stronger than the last time, so he should get ready for impact. He asks her to hold on for a second, but it's too late. She's already put everything she has into the spell, and now she casts a 6-fold wind blast that hits the capital at least 10 times. The dragon walks up to the king and starts to charge up his dragon's breath to kill him. 1,000 years ago, this flame burned the continent to the ground. That means the king can't take a direct hit. Although the king knows he is going to die, he still wants to do something cool before he does, so he grabs a sword and gets ready to hit the dragon hard. That is the blast sword. Stick uses all of the user's mana in one powerful attack, but the user dies. It looks like the king is giving up his life so that he can at least hurt the dragon. But right before the king strikes, Nor appears out of nowhere and blocks the dragon's face. The dragon's breath then shoots into the sky, knocking it to the ground. The dragon doesn't know what knocked it out, but when it wakes up and sees Nor standing there, it knows that he must have done it. Therefore, it tries to hit him hard with its tail. Moore blocks it, though, and the dragon falls to the ground again. Mo thought he was going to die after Lin shot him, but he woke up just in time to use his physical enhancement to gain control and jump over the castle walls. He couldn't stop himself, though, and flew into the dragon and had to block it. He never wants to get hit with a cannonball again, but he's also not surprised at how easy it was to block the dragon. Since it's supposed to be a disaster that will end the country, it's shocking how big it is. Lin's wind blast, on the other hand, scared him more. He's sure he can beat that thing, so he's ready to fight it immediately. Linen and In have now reached the capital, and they plan to save the king. Mistress of the Nord tries to distract the Elder Dragon. A huge piece of building material crashes into them. Lin falls to the ground, but En protects her by putting up a shield. Lin is thankful that you saved her life. She looks ahead, though, and sees a group of goblin emperors coming their way. The one she and Nor fought in the forest was much bigger than these other ones. She isn't sure how they will deal with the goblin emperor, though, because he is still a scary monster. She needs to stop acting like these are abnormal beings and start thinking like them. It should be easy to defeat them if you understand what Lin is saying. The goblin emperors aren't that much of a threat compared to the elder dragon that they're fighting, so they hold their ground and Lin casts an ice spell at them as they charge. The attacks don't work because the goblins are moving too quickly. Strollo knows he needs to do something, so he uses his powers to tell the monsters to stop moving. The goblins all freeze in place. While Uns uses her power to make a sword and slash through all of the goblins, Lin uses ice magic to freeze them in place. Together, they kill the goblins and the Emperor, and Lin is very impressed that Ans is worthy of being called the Divine Shield and can also kill any enemy with her Divine Sword. Then there's Rollo. One word was enough to stop those goblin emperors. Even though she knows he's a demon, she can't believe a boy like him has so much power. At the same time, the dragon is having an existential crisis because this tiny human is blocking every attack he makes. What's worse, even though the dragon's claws and scales are supposed to be unbreakable, Nor is slowly chipping away at them and hurting the dragon. Nor isn't even breaking a sweat, and he's not even impressed that his sword isn't even slightly damaged after all the blocking he's been doing. The dragon knows that he is beginning to wonder what this thing is made of. Physical attacks won't be able to beat it, but that doesn't mean it will lose. It has an attack that it can't block or short-circuit. The dragon takes off and starts to charge up. It takes another dragon's breath attack straight on, but it isn't scared and blocks it anyway. We all knew it was going to happen, but no one has officially blocked Nuke by now. The dragon is shocked by what just happened, and Rollo can tell it's angry and frustrated that Nor isn't taking it seriously as a threat, even though it really wants to be harmful. As the Elder Dragon is very proud and thinks it is the strongest creature, Nor easily beating it is a big blow to its ego. It tries to attack one last time to show how strong it is, but Nor parries it and breaks one of the dragon's claws in the process. That's when the dragon realized that Nor is simply stronger than it. That's when it gets down on the ground and gives up. Everyone who saw this is speechless, and neither does the dragon. It looks like the dragon doesn't want to fight anymore, so he wins. He thinks of the story from his childhood about the hero who killed a dragon and used its parts to make the land rich and prosperous. That dragon did a lot of damage, but Morkem still managed to kill it. This makes him sit down in front of it. Lin and the girls approach him. "I'm glad to see you're still alive," she tells him. "Are you hurt?" He tells her he's okay, which is tough because he just fought a dragon. He knows what happened and thanks Rollo for helping him. His words make no sense to Rollo, and he doesn't think the dragon just calmed down because Rollo said so. He also doesn't get why the dragon would calm down if it wasn't his fault. All of a sudden, he thought it was Rollo's power, but Rollo said it wasn't his fault. When Nor thinks back, Rollo told him earlier that some people don't like him because he is powerful. He thinks Rollo doesn't want anyone to know that his powers can work on something so scary. He says, "I get it, and I agree to leave it at that." After that, he asks Rollo to do something nice for him. Rollo tells him to send the dragon back to where it came from. This doesn't make sense to Ines, who thinks letting this monster go is a bad idea. He doesn't want to kill it here, but she does. He asks them to think about it, even though he knows it's selfish, and Lin agrees. She asks Rollo if he can do this since the dragon is so strong. That's what he thinks is the nicest thing he can do. Some people are telling him that he can use his powers since these girls won't be scared of him. He then walks slowly up to the dragon and talks to it with his power. He thinks the dragon's answer is strange and tells it that it will do what its master tells it. It doesn't surprise him that the dragon really said that, and he thinks that the dragon sees Rollo as his master. The girls know what's really going on, though, and they can't believe neither of them was able to tame the dragon of death. Nor then tells Rollo to tell the dragon to leave people alone and return to where it came from. It's possible for Rollo to do it again, and the dragon agrees. After that, it leaves the capital. It tries to fly back home, but a beam stops it. This shocks Nor and the others, and Darius thinks that everything went just the way he planned. He says that even a dragon that is 1,000 years old is just a stupid animal in front of him. He then goes to check on the capital and finds that it's still in better shape than he thought. He tells his army to join the attack because he doesn't care about this. Matra's army comes to the area after the battle thanks to teleportation magic used by a soldier. It's clear that the king is very sure that this will quickly bring down the kingdom of clay. All of his soldiers are carrying heavy weapons. It's also been a while since he heard of a tamer who could control the dragon of calamity. The tamer asked for a price, which he paid. This made the dragon obey them. The tamer was able to wake up the dragon and take charge of it once he was ready. He thought the money he spent was well spent. After that, his minister made a plan. He said that the Dragon of Calamity would be used to destroy the capital city of Clay's kingdom first. They will march their forces into the capital once this is over. He said that all of their soldiers would have magic, swords, and shields, and that the best soldiers would have magic, armor, and cannons. They will also bring 4 Brianox, which are very powerful mana ray weapons, and 3 Ises, which are mobile mana bow generators. Durandus was in the army and tried to tell the king that the war was bad for their country. However, the king didn't listen to Randus's warning in the end, and he still tried to change his mind. It got old for the king, so he hit him in the face with a boot. He told him that as long as they are on the cutting edge of magic technology, no one can bother their empire. He also said that everyone would know about this. Darius says that soon, people will remember the Kingdom of Clay as a place full of stupid people who were greedy and didn't care about the Dungeon of the Lost, leaving it to fall apart. People will remember Matra as the kind army that freed them from their stupid king. He says that history doesn't need many storytellers, so he kills everyone in the cap tale somewhere else. The people with No are looking at the place where the dragon fell. That makes sense if the dragon is still alive. Rollo says they need to look more closely to be sure. At that point, Lin sees the army of the magical empire of Matra. There is a soldier who sees Lin and the others using a telescope while Darius tells his troops to move forward. The king also sees them and doesn't say anything. But he is shocked to see the princess here. He also sees the divine shield and believes she is one of the famous living people that everyone knows about. He thinks this is great because she could be the reason the royal capital hasn't been lowered. It's the time when legends ruled the world is over now. Now that they live in the time of wisdom, he tells his soldiers to shoot them with the Brennick. After that, the soldiers point the Brennick at her. The king thinks she might be the divine shield, but the Brennick's heat will destroy her. He is excited to think that he is about to kill another legend. He thinks that this is what makes him love war so much. The soldiers then tell the king they're ready to fire, and the king tells them the king thinks this is the end for Ines because the blast is going straight for her. After that, we saw that right before the Brianac was fired. Ines told Lin to back off when she saw that it was getting charged. Lin and Rollo ran away, and the Brianac's blast hit Ines right in the face. Nor dodged it just in time, though. After some time, the king sees that everyone is okay, which makes him wonder what went wrong. They tell him that something might have gone wrong because of a problem with the way the mana was being condensed. The king tells the soldiers to get ready for the next blast. While this is going on, No-Eye thinks this is too close and wants to know what that light is. He doesn't pay attention to it, though, because the army on them is more important. Lin tells him that Darastai has called up his troops. She thinks there might be around 10,000 of them down there. She has no idea what's going on. Lin says that they have an army in the capital, but many of the brutes will be too strong for them. Ines says that the only thing they know for sure is that these people are here to destroy their kingdom. Then Ines tells Lin that they should leave because there's nothing else they can do. Lin agrees to meet her brother back there. He tells her not to worry about it when she asks him what he's going to do. He needs to run because of what's going on. But Lin gets the wrong idea and he doesn't know why she's smiling. He tries to explain what he wants to do, but Darius attacks them again before he can finish. The small beams that are coming at them are blocked by Ines's divine shield, and this attack doesn't hurt her. The king is mad about this, so a soldier tells him to hide in the back because things could get dangerous. The king, who is afraid, listens to him. The blasts keep coming, so he knows there is only one way out of this. He told Lin that he was going to get the army's attention. By the time they got away, he realized that he wasn't good at fighting, but he was good at running away. That was something he learned as a child. As he looked for honeycomb, bees would attack him every time he touched their hives. He's also sure that now everything will be okay. He would be crazy to tell Lin and the others not to be careless. They believe him when he says he will be back. She helps him one last time before she leaves. She is about to cast a spell on him, and he thinks she might be giving him a boost. But when she tells him to brace for impact, he knows she is going to shoot him again. She tells him that everything will be fine since she is now in charge of the output. The DI hears him and Darius tries to shoot at them again. Lin quickly shoots Nord before he has a chance to get ready. He stays awake even though the wind blast almost knocks him out. Then he sees beams coming at him, but he stops all of them. Then more beams try to hit him, but he stops them. Even though he doesn't want to, he walks right into Matra's army. He's glad that his skill is working on them. He's moving too fast though, so he can't change direction. He also blocks every soldier that comes his way. He blocks all of their hits at once and charges through the army, stopping everyone in his way. So he decides to run around and block everything. He thinks that Lin and the others will have a better chance of getting away if they can buy more time. When the king looks, he is shocked to see that the weapons of his soldiers are flying through the air. He has no idea what's going on. After that, a strong gust of wind hits him all over and he sees a man behind him. The soldiers don't know where their weapons went because Nor doesn't stay there for long. As they look up, they see that they are all in the sky. The soldiers are hit by the weapons. Many of the soldiers are hurt by the weapons even though they are getting ready to hit. The king can see that even the Ises are flying through the sky. Then Nor goes away, but a hurricane hits the king and his imperial guard, and he is never seen again. After that, the Ises fall on the army too, and neither side moves to block anyone with a gun still. This scares the king, so Nor stops by him again. The king remembers seeing No with the princess just now, but farther away when he looks at his face again. He has no idea how he got here. He doesn't like how he looks at him or how soon it is. There's a chance that he knows he's the king and is here to kill him. Even though No isn't saying it, the cowardly king can feel that No wants to kill. He feels like he's going to die here. He then remembers that he still has on his Aura Calcum armor and his Oracle Cum sword, so he gets ready to fight. He's scared, but he doesn't understand that having good gear doesn't make you a good fighter. He walks right by him and blocks the army's Brian axe. The king doesn't understand why his cannon is lying on its back. Even more, he doesn't know why his 10,000-strong army is in such bad shape. EI says that might protect against dragon breath, and Brian says that might kill dragons instantly. He sees No again and asks the king who he is and why he hasn't killed him yet. But then he sees No's weapon and knows what it is. The man who has King Clay's black sword is the one thing he wants most in the dungeon. He doesn't know why that person has it. It is said that this sword is made of metals that he doesn't know and is too heavy for a normal person to carry. So strong that even King Clay's, who is crazy strong, needed both hands to lift it. He is shocked to see someone using it by themselves. He is still shocked that someone was able to beat King's plays and kill all of his army. He knows that. He is only alive because of this man. He wants him to feel pain and shame before being beaten to death. And he thinks it's funny that he is doing to him everything he planned to do to King Clay. The king then pees in a royal way because he is scared and he rides off on his horse. I think that this man is awful. Thanks for seeing. Thank you for reading my short story. Sign up, like, and share if you want to see more. A few seconds earlier, from the Emperor's point of view, the man was wearing shiny golden armor and his horse was dressed in the best clothes. He was also seeing things very differently. The adventurer didn't understand this guy's deal. Even though he seemed important, no matter what was going on, the guy was just staring at him with that weird expression. Nor had time for random reflections because the battle was getting tough and it was time to act. To begin, he couldn't let the soldiers pick up their weapons that were falling back to the ground, so he used his parry skill to keep all the gear in the air. On top of that, the army of the Magic Empire had all of this strange machinery with them. He didn't know what these huge machines were, but he thought it might not be a good idea to let them work at full speed, so he added them to his list of things to keep in the air. After causing chaos on the battlefield, the warrior couldn't shake the feeling that the old man interested him and wanted to know what that person was doing there of all places. At that moment, Dar said something as if he already knew the answer was no, which made the Black Blade wielder even more confused as he walked up to the monarch. He didn't feel any danger, so he turned his attention to the enemy's Bionics and threw them all into the air. As soon as Ar saw the man come back to life, he asked why the enemy hadn't killed him yet and didn't understand why the old man thought he was hostile. He also thought the Emperor was probably an Alzheimer's patient who got lost in the middle of the battle and needed to be found. No longer seen as a threat, the adventurer rested his sword on his shoulder and smiled slightly. But Duritz's first thought was to run to his horse and run away as fast as he could. His body had a terrible reaction that made him lose strength. When he spat blood on the ground and saw enemy soldiers surrounding him, he knew his body had reached its limit from all the chaos he had caused in the battle. Now, his health was paying the price. He also couldn't hope that his friends had been able to escape safely. But a young woman's voice called up her falling star ability on the battlefield, and no one knew for sure if it was Mayan, the archer from the Sovereigns. At the same time, someone else called up their drag RV technique, and no one knew for sure who had that power as they looked at the figure he had seen. The spearman had to guess the name 3 times before he realized he was Gilbert. On top of that, Gilbert's master Sig went up to No to thank him for his great deeds and say he would take care of the rest of the work. So, the swordsman charged into the enemy army and used his 1,000 blades ability to kill a ridiculous number of enemies. As he did this, he watched the knight's movements and remembered that this was the kind of person he had wanted to be as a child. From the sidelines, S complained about what the sovereign did right after he asked them to stop too much bloodshed. Oken, on the other hand, thought it was a bad order for an army this big. San saw things from the Maj's point of view, but he stressed that the dead couldn't give any useful information about the enemy, which changed the subject. He said it was time, so Oken called on other wizards to use earthbond magic, which made roots grow out of the ground and stop moving. At the same time that the rival soldiers arrived, Dandel and his troops did too, making a lot of noise in another part of the area. The sight of the rising dust enchanted Oken no matter how old he got. The mage had always thought that a well-fought battle was beautiful. Then he joined the sorcerer who had been called again to cast the spell-cast stone prison, which made a wall of rocks around the enemies. Then it was time for the Sovereign of Salvation and his army to go out into the field and try to heal the survivors while he carefully examined each one. He saw that they were all the teachers from when he was a child. Mayan and Karu saw him beaming with happiness as he greeted them again from on top of the stone wall, and Lin returned to heal her teacher after the fight was over. She thought he should rest more, but the man felt fine, even though he was very hungry all of a sudden. Sig told them that an enemy officer had given in to questioning and admitted that no more troops were coming for now. The source said that the Empire had launched this attack with all of its might, including the dragon and the beasts that made it to the capital. Putting that aside, the swordsman said that the Emperor had run away, despite what Oken had said. He was shocked that such a cowardly old man had even shown up on the battlefield, along with the sovereign blade figure. It was because the Emperor was too sure of himself after getting new tools for the war. Also, the Maj said that it wasn't smart for an old man to demand that people call him wise, and that comment got a lot of attention. No's attention, wondering if Oken was talking about the old man lost on the front with his gold-covered horse. The mage explained that the armor was made of orichalcum and could withstand an infinite number of spells and abilities. But most importantly, he said that the Emperor's sense of style was as bad as his actions. Sig mentioned that they could still catch Juras if he had run to the border, where there was a fortress with a bridge crossing the ravine. However, Oken warned that they would not be able to catch the monarch normally, so it would be good if they could find a way to fly and pick him up. Nor casually said that if the creature was still alive, he might have led the kings and queens to the calamity. Dragon and Oken were stunned when they saw such a beautiful beast. It was the first time San had ever been asked to heal such a huge animal, and he felt proud to be given the job. The Sovereign of Salvation fixed the dragon with his amazing skills and then said that he barely knew the word no anymore because he had grown so much. It scared Oken to hear that name because he had been one of No's teachers in the past. Snor says that the magic teacher is still going strong, and the silly man is sure that he will live another 100 years. The young one laughs and says that the old man's jokes are still funny, but the wizard takes offense because he was being serious. Putting that aside, he asks the boy if they're really going to ride this wild animal, but Nor assures him that everything will be okay because they have Rolo. Oken wonders if the demon folk is really sure of his skills. But the boy just shakes his head, ready or not. He doesn't care about the doubt. The dragon slowly opens its eyes, showing that it is getting stronger and telling Rolo it's time to get to work. According to R, all of a sudden, the wingless beast rises up strong and roars very loudly. Since the dragon is so eager to settle the score, she wants No to lead her there. Nor says it's time to leave, but he's confused when Lin and Inai step up to mount because he thought only the sovereigns were going on this trip. Lin tells them that they need Rolo to talk to the dragon, so she and her bodyguard will keep the demon people safe. Really, they thought that No would be joining them at the hearing, although this No starts to sweat like a waterfall because he is afraid of heights. He doesn't think it's fair to back out now that the chance has come up. San says he'll join the others to check on the dragon's health and that of the travelers. He and Karu are also good at talking to people nicely. The Shadow Sovereign asks to be left out of this one because he doesn't want to scare anyone by being too ignorant. When he realizes who is talking, his eyes light up when he sees his old thief class teacher and asks him if he's really not going to come with Karu. He changes his mind and remembers. We'll need his stealth skills to fly this huge thing without being seen, and only he can provide them. Ensei asks if he needs to keep an eye on the stone prison, and the wizard reluctantly agrees to come to the area on horseback, and is scared because she thought she would be punished for not taking the princess to Mithra as planned when Lord Rain and the King of Clay himself joined the group. Lin is happy about this, but Lin's brother says that was a stupid order to give. To be honest, he's glad to see the two of them there since he won't be going on the mission with the team. Rain is in charge, and His Majesty says he's sorry for always asking for favors, but he wants the adventurer to watch over his 2 kids. Of course, Nor promises to work for the king. But he can. Once everything is clear, Rollo tells the dragon to fly, and the group leaves from the top of the hill to complete their mission. After all this time, Dandy Dog isn't sure if Sig should have said something to No. The swordsman, on the other hand, thinks that above all, he never needed any of them to do his job in life, and that they were too proud to think they could have changed that person. In any case, the Sovereign Shield agrees because that boy looks like a hero straight out of an old story. When given the chance, Sig says that he felt bad about being lazy. When he saw Duritz's army flying off in the distance, he thought he could teach other people, but then he realized he needs to go back a few steps and learn new things. Even with everything that was going on, the 2 sovereigns admitted that they were thrilled by the show the adventurer put on. The group whose job it was to find Doris kept going on their journey on the Calamity Dragon, but they were still having trouble because they were worried about how fast Duritz's horse was moving. The Emperor may have already gone back to his own land, which is why Karu says that the area past the steel bridge is enemy territory. So it would be smart to turn around. Suddenly, Lin sees movement ahead and calls her friend's attention to the fact that the person crossing the bridge is none other than Dar. He is racing on horse back toward the fortress, though Koro warns them that they'll be turned to dust if they charge straight at the castle, and Rain agrees as long as the enemy has time to use their magical gear to make their army stronger. That being said, Ines Harness asks her bosses for permission to destroy the whole area because it will be their escape route later. So it's better to take down the fortress's defenses while they still have time. Lin thinks that her squire would never say something so powerful in a normal setting. The princess knew that when her squire said that, the war had really begun. Ines must be very angry that their capital was attacked. She swore to protect it, and now she wants to get each. So, Rain lets the vice captain of the warrior corps call up her divine sword and destroy the fortresses that stand in their way. After the battle, Rain tells his sister that what they do here will affect the whole war. He asks her if she is ready to face the consequences of what they do, and Lady Lindbergh says she is. She then thinks that every person there is very powerful, which makes her feel like she doesn't need to worry about getting hurt. She believes in above all else, and the Kingdom of Clay's trump card. For some reason, she feels like she hasn't fully come to understand how powerful he really is. As soon as the Emperor gets back to the fort and feels safe, his fear turns to anger as he remembers how badly he was treated as he walks past his officials. When they ask him why he's covered in mud and smells like piss, the Emperor starts to blame all of his soldiers, even though he gave them high-tech weapons for not being able to win. Someone from the government sees something outside the window, though, and cuts him off. The Emperor looks up and realizes that the Dragon of Calamity is heading straight for the Empire. He is once again in a state of terror because he doesn't understand how it's still alive since the laser beam should have killed it. He quickly figures out that Saints was to have brought it back to life, but they shouldn't have been able to make it attack him even if they could heal it. The Emperor then turns around and asks for the beast that Tammy hired. The official tells him that Mr. D has already left the Empire, and the Emperor thinks Al-Al-Dai betrayed him. As he starts to act out, so Randos tries to calm him down, but because yelling won't help. But the Emperor gets angry and tells Randos to stop being useless and save the Empire. Randy agrees, and as he walks away, he gives the Emperor's shit a look that says, "I'm tired of it." While that is going on, the Emperor tells the others to get Kronos ready because he plans to use it to destroy the dragon. The government tries to talk him out of it because Kronos is still being tested and firing it would probably destroy a lot of the city. The Emperor doesn't care anymore, though, and kicks one of them across the room to defend himself. They can't do much else because the dragon is going to destroy the city anyway. He tells them that they don't have to worry about collateral damage if they don't do anything. If they have to, they can just use the Monot targeting system to aim it right. The officials do what they are told, and the city goes dark because the Kronos' laser cannon is locked onto the dragon's monosignature. The Emperor is sure that the dragon will be killed because this is the most powerful weapon his empire has ever made. But as the laser is fired straight at the dragon, something on the dragon's head blocks it, changing its path. The Emperor can't believe what just happened, which is made worse by the fact that they had the Mona tracking settings turned on. Because of this, laser beams are now aimed at the Empire's mana generators. The Empire has no defenses without these, so they are completely helpless. The Emperor began to blame the officials, even though he was the one who told them to fire. As the laser went off one by one, the officials quit right there. And then, at this point, the Emperor is left to watch the foundations of his whole empire burn down. A short time ago, the group was riding the dragon toward the Empire when all of a sudden, they felt something coming. And this laser beam was much stronger than the last one. They didn't have time to avoid it or run out in front of it and block it. Even though he was successful, he can't fly. so he crashed into the Emperor's castle. On the other hand, the Emperor is surrounded by Randus and a few other knights who are tired of dealing with him. When the Emperor asks Randus what he's up to, he tells him that he wants to save the Empire and that he needs to kill the Emperor to do that. The Emperor begs for help, but no one is willing to do what he says anymore. It looks like he will definitely die. However, he is shocked by how lucky he was to land in the Emperor's throne just before he is cut down or crashes through the ceiling. No raises his sword and asks Rumranzif if he plans to protect the Emperor. Rumran says he doesn't really care about protecting the Emperor. He doesn't think these knights should kill him either. One of the knights points a gun at the Emperor, but Nor blocks the shot and carefully hits the Emperor on the head, protecting him all the while. Rudis and his men know that Nor is not a good fighter, so they all decide to attack him. However, once they all get hit, Randus tells them that the Emperor has destroyed his country and needs to pay for it with his own life. One of the knights then throws a bomb at the Emperor to try to kill him, but he doesn't see this coming, so he kicks the Emperor out of the way again, this time very gently. The Emperor's body hangs off the wall. Nor asks the Elven Knights why they want to kill him. One of the knights, though, says that Nor has hurt the Emperor more than any of them. Randy tells the Emperor that he needs to die, so he throws more bombs at him. But Nor knows his early, so he grabs the Emperor's leg gently and sets him down carefully on the floor. Nor tells the knights that the Emperor is pretty old already. That being said, why not just lock him up and let him depart naturally? But Randus says they can't because the enemy has already attacked the Empire and is now on their way here with the Dragon of Calamity. Thus, he must kill the Emperor right away to show that they no longer want to fight. He hears someone say, though, that killing the Emperor won't be necessary because he won't have to suffer for what he did. If he's already dead, his body has just been found by Rain and the others. He thanks Nor for all the help. He wants to take care of things on from now on, though. Because he might be hurt from his fall, he tells Lin to go heal now. Lin and Nor leave the throne room to let Rain take care of things. In his speech to the knights, Rain tells them again that they don't need to worry because he doesn't agree with them. That means no one will hurt them. The Emperor, on the other hand, won't be so lucky. In a surprise move, the Emperor begs Rain to forgive him, but only under certain conditions because of the attacks from the Emperor. Face off on it. Some people from the kingdom died by being crushed by rocks, setting on fire, and dying, or being torn apart by animals. So long as the Emperor is ready to feel the pain he caused, Rain is ready to forgive him and start international peace talks to talk about the payments that need to be made to end the war. He asks if anyone is against his plans, but no one is against the Emperor. So everyone agrees that the Emperor will have to go through the same horrible pain. The Emperor doesn't get it because he can't live through it, but he is in a lot of pain. But she tells him that no matter how many times his bones are broken or his guts are cut open, IUS will always be there to fix him up. This way, he can keep being tortured, and even if he passes out from all the pain, Kara knows how to wake him up. The Emperor is even more scared than before and pees himself out of fear. But Rain wants to make it clear that he doesn't like torturing people, but he needs the Emperor to fully understand how much pain he caused all those people over a small grudge. While that's going on inside, he's actually being very easy on the punishment. And Nor has just finished getting healed by Lin and is feeling a lot better, but when he looks out at the Empire, he can't help but feel bad about all the damage he did when he deflected that laser. Footman purely that Lin tells him not to worry about it because he only did it to keep them from getting hit by the laser, and no one died in the process. And people would not have been near the Empire's mana generators when they were destroyed because the lasers only hit places with a lot of mana would have been safe. Taking them down will still have a big effect on the lives of the people here, though. Then it started to rain, and Karu and S came back. They said they had reached a deal, so from now on, both the Empire and the Kingdom will focus on rebuilding after the war. It's also not a surprise that the war is over when it was barely beginning. But since that's the case, he asks what happened to the Emperor. Rain tells him that the Emperor gave up his throne. The kid is only 10 years old, but he or she is likely to become the new Emperor. So until then, a guardian will be chosen to rule in his place, and it was decided that the knights would be in charge until the child is old enough to rule. At that point, the knights also come out, and the first thing they do is Droves does say he's sorry for attacking Nor earlier and is ready to do whatever it takes to make things right. But Nor says he doesn't mind, so Nor doesn't need to worry about it. Randus is neither happy nor sad, but as a sign of goodwill, he tells No that if he ever needs help, he and the other knights will do everything they can to help him. Neither tells him not to go so far for him, and if anything, neither thinks he should say sorry for all the damage he caused to the city. According to Randus, he shouldn't feel bad about it because it was directly caused by what the former emperor did, and no one has been hurt or killed by the blast. So all that's left is to repeat the crimes. As even though the crimes that the empire committed against the kingdom are much worse, Nor still offers to help in any way he can, even if it's just clearing up the mess. The dragon is getting bored, so they all climb on its back and fly back to the kingdom. But by the time they get there, Nor still doesn't like flying. The king greets them and says he's sorry that he made Rain do all the talking by herself. Afterward, he wants to know all the details, but first, he needs to thank their savior. They not settle free and agrees that Nor almost single-handedly saved the whole capital, so a good reward should be given to him. But Nor stops them and says he doesn't need any perks. Even though Cain knows that Nor isn't materialistic, he saved the whole country. The K can't just let him go without giving him something. This is the kind of situation where no one knows he should get a reward, but he can't think of anything he really wants. But as a reward, he turns to Rollo and says that he has something he wants the king to do for him, not the actions that makes the king happy. His question is what Nor wants, and Nor tells him that he just wants Rollo to be taken care of. He says Rollo is a magic child of demons and has nowhere to live since he was left behind. Nor did he want Rollo to live in the capital like a normal person, and he hadn't even thought about taking Rollo in by himself. But he doesn't have much, and Rollo would be much happier if he had a rich family to take care of him. He says it would be great if the king could give Rollo some land and a house. The king understands Nora's request, but it's a problem because the holy theocracy of Mara has made all demon people enemies. As a result, if the king makes Rollo a citizen, it will negatively impact his relationship with Mate. Mate is about to inquire if Nor can make a different request, but Nor stops him and states that he only requires Rollo's safety. So, if Cain wants to offer something else, he should put those resources toward rebuilding the kingdom instead. The king is surprised by No's persistence. That is why he can't help but laugh out loud. The moment comes back to Rollo's mind as she looks up at No. His life was about to get better because the frog dragon was going to kill him. He hoped to not have to suffer as much and maybe even eat tasty food. But he didn't really think his dream would come true. After a while, True Rollo wakes up in a warm bed and quickly sits down to dinner with Ants. She tells him that he will be living with her for now. Yeah, but Rollo doesn't have much to say. He is told to get the food quickly before it gets cold. Rollo is shocked because he hadn't even thought that everything was meant for him. He has never had the chance to eat before. Non-rotten food, so when he takes his first bite, he smiles and tears up because he thinks the food tastes great. This was the end of the episode 11. So later, Nor walks through the streets of the capital, shocked by the damage the enemy has done to their city. He hopes that all of the people he works for are safe and sound, but he's glad to see that the Guildhall made it through this. He sees the sign on the ground and picks it up, while Nor wipes it down. He is aware of that. The last time he really looked at the sign was when the guild master told him he couldn't become an adventurer, since he couldn't learn a skill. The guy is glad to have reunited with the teachers who taught him what he knows. Flashback to when Nor went to the different schools. From the teacher's point of view, Sig was skeptical when a young Nor came to his school looking for training. But the kid's determination soon caught his attention, and Sig paid him as someone who would have a bright future one day. Master made Sig show him a skill that the Swordmaster had. He was surprised that Nor could feel the rhythm of the Swordmaster's slice because he had a hard time following it himself. Although Nor trained for 2 months, he only learned the parry skill. Master parry? Because of this, Sig had to let him go in the hopes that he would be better at another warrior discipline. School Dodar was afraid that a kid like No would not be able to make it through the training. But he did, and he showed how tough he was by refusing to run when a big rock was about to fall on him. Tian Dark saved him, but he knew that he could make Nor an unbeatable shield. After another month of training, though, he didn't see any progress, so he had to let the boy. He came to me, but I didn't want to take him on, so she gave him the almost impossible task of hitting a floating stick from a long way away with a rock. To her surprise, he did it twice. She didn't want to fight him, but she took him on it anyway. Just until she gave him the bows, he kept snapping them. As he threw stones again, he told them that he used to hunt the Thunder Flash. According to Bird's M, it would be hard for a seasoned hunter with a good bow to kill such a thing after 3 months. She let him go because he was already too good at throwing stones. Next, he trained with Master Cuse, but he just brute forced it through all the tricky tests he failed. Karuk, on the other hand, notices how strong and determined No is and was going to invite him to join the royal capital's intelligence service. But Nor left to train magic with Oaken, where it was revealed that he was born without mana. Sure, the old man told him to help fix this by going into the Mana resident's room. He told them to leave if things get too bad. When the old man heard that, he rushed to the machine because he wasn't going to stay there for long. When he opened it, he was expecting the worst, but the boy was fine. Instead, he threw Oaken out because after 3 months, he was almost ready to figure something out. and he only knew the tiny flame spell. Ulk was shocked when Nor showed dual casting, since it had taken him 50 years to learn. The old man was sure that if Nor had more mana, he would have been the best magician ever. He finally went to the healing school, but Master Sang turned him down at first because he hadn't gone through the rite of blessing, which was required to train at the school. He also didn't want to be picked, so he waited outside for days until he almost passed out. As he fell asleep, Sen caught him and accepted him. But he made it clear that there was no guarantee that he would learn a skill. He trained for months and finally learned how to do low heal, which is already a miracle. But it's not good enough for him to become an adventurer yet, and the teachers found that out before they left the capital. They got together as the Sovereign Six to talk about the boy's huge potential and decided to take Nor on in an animerecap. They set out as a group to find him, but they didn't find him until they saw him again 15 years later. He was already dead. Nor walks into the guild hall and gives the master the sign. This ends the flashback. The old man asks him to help move some rubble. The skilled person, who hasn't had a fight to save the city yet, goes to where the construction is going on and helps them while he thinks about what has happened so far. While this was going on, Klaz met with the prince, and the two of them came to the conclusion that Matra was working behind the scenes with the Empire. This is because the Empire was using manana stones that could only come from a traitor. There won't be peace in their country anytime soon. The prince is sure of it, and the king is hopeful because they have people in their country they can depend on and need his work. But his stomach growls. Lin, who is carrying bread, gives it to him after thanking him again for saving them. Nor looks back and is thankful for everyone who helped him get where he is now. Right now, the guy doesn't know that he pretty much led the kingdom to victory. He loves his sword and plans to become an adventurer with it so that he can go on journeys. It looks like the ones in the books his dad read to him. He is told by the construction manager that they are moving to a different part of the city. A piece of the tower is about to fall on him, but he deflects it onto one of the big skips, which surprises the manager, and then he just walks off to do more work, finally ending the season.